A few weeks ago, I was at a dinner party. It was one of those typical gatherings: good food, nice wine, and a room full of smart people, mainly lawyers. I ended up in a conversation with a guy I'll call Mark. Mark is a guy my age and a high powered corporate lawyer, sharply dressed, obviously very successful compared to his peers. We started talking about inflation and the interest rates, and I mentioned the concept that I thought was universally understood. I said, well, obviously, a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow. It's the time value of money, right? Basic finance. Mark looked at me, took a sip of his wine, and argued. He said, no, John, if I don't spend the dollar today, I still have it tomorrow. It's the same dollar. And after all, we're young and don't really need as much money now. I'd rather have more money when I'm older. I was stunned. Here was a guy who is incredibly intelligent, highly educated, respected in his field despite being in his early 30s, and he completely, fundamentally misunderstood how money works. But then the scary part hit me. I realized I couldn't actually explain why she was wrong. I knew she was wrong, intuitively, but I didn't have the vocabulary to dismantle his argument. I was just repeating phrases I might have heard on CNBC. Hi, I am John. I have a day job. I've been investing in the stock market for a few years, and up until that party, I thought I somewhat knew what I was doing. But that argument with the lawyer was my tipping point. It made me realize that most of us, maybe even the professionals, are financially literate. We're investing, but really we're just guessing. We're building houses without understanding gravity. I decided I'm done guessing and I want to understand the machine. So I asked Google Gemini what economics students read in the best universities, and it said that I should take a look at Principles of Economics by N. Gregory Mankiw. It's the gold standard textbook for Economics 101. My plan is simple. I'm going to read this book chapter by chapter. I'm going to teach you what I learn, and we're going to go from guessing to knowing. Today is chapter 1, the 10 principles of economics. Well, Mankiw opens with a hard truth. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Principle number 1 is people face trade-offs. To get one thing that we like, we usually have to give up another thing that we like. At the party, Mark the lawyer was thinking about money as a static object. He wasn't thinking about the trade-off. This leads directly. He wasn't thinking about the trade-off. Like option A, spend $100, right? But option B, invest them. This leads directly to principle number 2, which is the exact concept I needed to win that argument. Principle 2 is the cost of something is what you give up to get it. This is called opportunity cost. When Mark said a dollar tomorrow is the same as a dollar today, he was ignoring opportunity cost. If I have $100 today, I can invest it in the S&P 500. Historically, that grows at about 8 to 10% per year, so if I hold that $100 under my mattress for that year, I have just kept the $100, but I lost the $10 I could have earned if I had, invested it. The cost of holding cash isn't zero. The cost is the growth you sacrificed. That is why money now is better than money later, because money now has potential and money later has missed the boat. And this applies to everything, not just money. The opportunity cost of watching this video is the 10 minutes you could have spent sleeping or working, and the opportunity cost of a graduate degree isn't just the tuition, it's the years of salary you gave up while studying. So principle 3, thinking about the margin. Now, this third principle is where things get a little philosophical. Rational people think at the margin. What does at the margin mean, though? It means we don't make decisions in black or white, or all or nothing. We make decisions in small adjustments. Mankiw uses a great example about airlines. Imagine a plane has 200 seats. It costs the airline $100,000 to fly that plane across the country. If you do the math, 100,000 divided by 200 seats equals $500 per seat. So you'd think the airline should never sell a ticket for less than $500, right? Otherwise they lose money. But imagine, the plane is about to take off and there are 10 empty seats. A standby passenger runs to the gate and says, I'll pay you $300 for that seat. So the airline take it. I mean, an average thinker says, no, it costs $500 to fly, that's it. But a marginal thinker says, the plane is flying anyway. The cost of adding one more passenger is basically zero. Maybe a bag of peanuts and a soda. So, selling that seat for $300 is pure profit compared to flying it empty. This blew my mind regarding my own spending. I often think, oh, I'm already spending $2,000 on this vacation. What's another $100 for a fancy dinner? That's bad marginal thinking. I need to weigh that marginal $100 against what else it could buy, not just lump it in with the sunk cost of the trip. Principle 4: Incentives. The last principle I want to cover today is arguably the most powerful one in the whole book. People respond to incentives, because rational people make decisions by comparing costs and benefit. Their behavior changes when those costs and or benefits change. So Mankiw tells this fascinating story about seatbelts. In the 1960s, Ralph Nader pushed for mandatory seatbelts to save lives, and it worked. More people survived car accidents. But something weird happened. The number of accidents actually increased, and the number of pedestrian deaths increased as well. Why? Incentives. Seatbelts made driving safer for the driver. When you feel safer, you have an incentive to drive faster or less carefully. The cost of driving fast went down. It meant less risk of death, so people did more of it. This happens in our financial lives constantly. If the government lowers interest rates, making money cheap, we have an incentive to borrow and spend. If taxes on capital gains go up, we have an incentive to sell less stock. Understanding incentives is basically the key to predicting the future. If you want to know what a company or a politician will do, look at their incentives, not their words. So, looking back at that party with the lawyer, I realized that Mark wasn't stupid. He just didn't have the framework. He didn't understand opportunity cost. And I realized I've been making seatbelt mistakes with my own money. I've been reacting to the wrong incentives. This book has 10 principles in the first chapter alone. We only covered 4 today. Trade-offs, meaning there is no such thing as a free lunch. Opportunity cost is what you give up when you choose to do something else. Marginal thinking can be important to increase gains, and incentives is what drives behavior. I'm going to try to apply this to my portfolio this week. I'm going to look at every stock I own and ask what is the opportunity cost of keeping this money here versus moving it somewhere else. If you want to stop guessing and start starting the machine with me, hit subscribe. I'm starting from zero. I'm going to read the whole book. Next week we're learning something new again. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.